Welcome once again. A new survey conducted by a community health project has found that queer people and sex workers are being treated with hostility at clinics and even denied services in South Africa. The survey was launched in a report done by Ritshidze. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, which is a project implemented by organizations supporting people with HIV in the country.
According to the report, some people do not feel safe enough to visit clinics, and others have stopped receiving treatment as a result. South Africa has among the highest HIV rates in the world, and the queer community is not only the most at risk of communicable diseases, but also mental illnesses as a result of attitudes of hatred and non-acceptance. Joining us this morning is James Oladipo. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to your viewers.
All right, let's talk about what Ritshidze, I believe is Ritshidze find. Why are these cohorts of people being discriminated against in South Africa?
Okay, yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah, it is Ritshidze. This part of the project monitors healthcare services for key populations. And when we talk about key populations, we're talking about sex workers, people who use drugs, and trans people and gay and bisexual and other men who have sex with men. So the report shows that, again, key population are being discriminated against. They are being ridiculed in the clinics. They are being there's a lot of issues around lack of privacy, around lack of safety, and sometimes denial of services. And as a result, we found that out of the over 9,000 key populations that we spoke to across the country, around 12% of them do not even access services anymore because they are tired of the way they are being treated in the clinics. And this is also a country whereby majority of the population use the public health facilities. So if people are unable to access these services where they feel safe and where they feel like they would receive what they've come there to do, then they decide to stop. And unfortunately, the drop-in centers that provide better services are not easily accessible, and majority of the key population we spoke to don't even know about this drop-in center. I think in Nigeria they call them one-stop shops, where specific services are provided for specific population.
Well, the survey focused on public health facilities. Would you say that this is happening also in private facilities? And South Africa has always seemingly been seen as the country that, is more accommodating to the LGBT community. So is that same, or, is that a false narrative?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a false narrative, because the Constitution and the law supports everyone. It gives everyone the right to health care. So, but there are still just issues with people's attitude. So in this instance, the healthcare workers, which are the people that come out as the top, that are always unprofessional or unfriendly to key population next to security guards. So it is individual attitudes now, not necessarily policies. The policies, the laws stipulate that everyone should be treated fairly, everyone should be able to access healthcare services. But yes, the report focuses on public health facility because majority of the population, not just the key population, majority of South Africans use, or everyone that lives in South Africa uses public health facilities the most. So that's why the report is focusing on that instead of a private facility, because the average the percentage of people who use private healthcare is really very little. So it's about ensuring that the public health facility is a safe space for everybody, irrespective of the fact that they use drugs, they engage in sex work, or they're a member of the LGBTQI community.
These are not new problems. You agree with me that these are problems that have been going on for a while, and there are indications that government, and particularly the Deputy Minister of Health, is promising to address this. So tell us more about what the government is doing in this regard.
So far, this is the second edition of the report, and we made some recommendations in our last report, and which we are again making some more additional recommendations around the establishing two key population specific clinics per district, so where key population can go to and receive services that they want. Where we're talking about services like harm reduction for people who use drugs, hormone therapy for trans people, post-sexual violence for sex workers. So the government we are engaging with the Department of Health. We are engaging with funders like the US PEPFAR to ensure that these recommendations are actioned. And yes, there has been some progress, but also some places things has gotten worse. So the government is, as you mentioned, the Deputy Minister has committed to actioning some of the recommendations, and we will just continually we'll continue to monitor the progress and the update to see if some of our recommendations are being actioned.
Well, I'm guessing that you have demands that, of course, you'll be making to the government. As a researcher, what changes would you specifically like to see happen? And of course, what are some of the solutions to these issues? I also want to, ask about what are the, common health, requirements, that some of these LGBTQ members, of course, seek that they have been denied so far, or they've been discriminated against so far.
Okay, firstly, with regards to the recommendations, and that is how our reports usually we go. We identify the issues that we found out from the community members, from the key population, and we provide recommendations. Which some of these recommendations come directly from the people, the participants themselves. So, as I mentioned earlier, one of them is the specialized clinic where key population can go to and ensure that they feel safe, they receive the services they want, and they won't get discriminated against. And also, it's a planned patient transport to ensure that even when people require these services and they are unable to go to the clinics themselves, the government is able to provide transportation or transportation resources for them to be able to access this. And also is the sensitization training for healthcare workers, including security guards, to ensure that everybody that steps into the clinic or into a public health facility gets treated well. So to issues around creating posters in clinics so that everyone feels welcome. So those are some of the recommendations that we provided. And with regards to the type of services that key populations, which includes people who use drugs, sex workers, members of the LGBTQI community, are requiring in clinics, issues around new needles for people who use drugs, prevention services like lubricants, like condoms, like STI treatments, like access to PrEP, because as you've mentioned, there's a high population of people living with HIV in South Africa, and the access to basic preventive care like this, especially for key population that are at higher risk of HIV, is very paramount in achieving the 95-95 goal set by the WHO. So those are some of the issues that key population are facing, and issues around post-sexual violence services, whereby people get assaulted and they need to get to the clinic to get access to things like PEP, that's post-exposure prophylaxis, to ensure that they get treated well, they don't get discriminated against because, they're a sex worker or they're a trans person, so they deserve to have been assaulted. So it's those kind of issues that key population are facing in the clinic, and we are hoping all this will change with we identifying these issues and providing recommendations.
All right, interesting, very interesting conversation, and of course, we would like to bring you in again, see if there's any improvement, and of course, continue to speak about these concerns, that you have, and of course, that community does have. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Looking forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much for having me.